topple a pawn and presume to challenge its master? Such arrogance!
Okay guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video on my channel here, obviously. Today we're going to be doing a little like last minute Shadowlands class options, how you should basically choose a main for Shadowlands. Now I'm going to comprise this into like tanks, and then into healers, and into DPS, or we'll do DPS first because that's my main role, and then I'll basically go make a tier list for tanks. Maybe we'll edit it and chop it up into a few pieces, but I'm going to go over a quick overview of each class, not too much backstory, as there is a longer version of this tier list and a more like more pod-casty, vodcasty kind of style, as I like to call it. Now, what I would like to do is basically, obviously, talk to you guys about each class and tell you guys why I would choose it and why I won't choose it. But obviously, this is tailored towards me. But hopefully, this should be able to help you if you're still having a hard time in these last few minutes on choosing a main for Shadowlands. Shadowlands is releasing today. Today is the 23rd for Europe. I just woke up like in 2 hours ago, roughly. And yeah, I'm hyped. I got my sleep. Actually, I only slept like 5 hours because I'm a bit restless, as I think most of you guys are. A few notes: I have been playing WoW for 15 years. I haven't played the first year, like I didn't play on launch, but I did play like late vanilla, and going into TBC was when I really like understood the game. Now, right, let's see. We're gonna sort the tanks out a bit later. They'll obviously naturally get picked out. Yeah, let's start off with Rogue. So this is let's see, this is Assassination Rogue, this is Combat, and this is Sub, right? So firstly, for me personally, I've always wanted to main Rogue. Rogue has always been a class that I've always had as an alt. It was actually one of the classes I made on day one. When I was playing the game, I was actually having a hard time between Druid because of Feral, because of cat form, Hunter because I like cats and I like animals in general, so Druid and Hunter. But then I also liked Rogue because Rogue was this kind of like how would I put this, maybe like a, let's say a melee DPS that could stealth and you could kind of sort of like abuse things. Now rogues have always been really crazy in the past. They've always been really high skill, high reward kind of class. They were usually not taken to raids that much in my opinion, like in TBC, but we did have, you know, obviously we did have like things like Warglaives and, you know, the daggers in Firelands, sorry, Shadowlands, Firelands. I'm really hyped for this expansion. I hope everyone is hyped going into this expansion, or if you're watching this video in the future, I hope you guys are enjoying the expansion so far. I think it was really great that we had, you know, this launch being a little bit delayed. I know some of you didn't like it, but I think as a community as a whole, I think you guys handled it pretty well. I think, yeah, I think you guys should give yourselves a pat on the back. In my opinion. Now, in regards to, sorry, I don't know if my lighting is okay. I'm kind of like new to all this. So if you're interested in seeing someone, you know, someone small who's a YouTuber and who's also a streamer grow, you guys could obviously follow my channel and stuff, and you get all that stuff out of the way. It's all in the description if you want to see me on Twitch, live streaming on Twitch. Go down and check that link in the bottom. I'm not going to force you guys to jump in, but I do want to point that out that I do stream a lot, and I'll be streaming Shadowlands every single day for the most part. Let's talk about the tier list and what you guys would want to see me stream. Now, let's start with Rogue then. Okay, so Rogue, let's see. So and I'm actually not used to this. So this is Outlaw, right? Sorry, this is Assassination, this is Outlaw, and this is Sub. Right, so for me, if I had to just place them out, I think Sub will go up in the S tier because it's such a great class. I know it's been nerfed and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not gonna talk too much about numbers. I'm not going to talk too much about other things such as like which covenants, or, you know, there's obviously like you should choose that kind of stuff depending on like tailored to your gameplay. Like if you want to go for high-end mythic, you know, like raiding, you should obviously, like my guide is not really for that. My guide is more like a, like, you should think about it, but you should also know that like I'm the kind of player that is playing heroic, mostly doing all the heroic and then pushing like 2-3 bosses in mythic and enjoying WoW that way. No, I guess you could say I'm casual. I could go hardcore if I wanted, but I do have a kid coming soon, so I'm really not into getting that stuff sorted. But maybe for you, maybe your covenant should be more tailored to PvP. Maybe your covenant should be tailored more to Mythic Plus if you do those kind of contents. Obviously, choose your class and all this stuff depending on your choice. Let's go and continue. So we have Sub going into S tier, straight up, good class. class. Always really cool to see them in raids. They're really fun to have in not Mythic Plus so much, but they're always fun to see them in PvP. So they have like rating and high PvP niche, and I think this is an S tier class in my opinion. Also, let me just tell you guys that I will be favoring melee over ranged, but I will put ranged DPS into consideration as if I were to main ranged DPS. No, I'm not going to spoil the results because it might be a ranged DPS. Spoiler, maybe not spoiler. But we'll put some classes in Zetsia, and then all the S tier classes would have been options in that place. Second thing I want to let you guys know is that also before we obviously we already started, but obviously if we continue here, some of these are not in really order. So I'm just going to briefly touch on them. Like Resto should be here. Now I might talk about a few specs. I will be bringing the tanks and the healers into their own row. Don't compare the tanks and the healers to themselves or to the DPS. Tanks and healers should just be compared to tanks and healers in that row or in the tier that they're in. So that being said, let's continue. So for me, now Assassination and Combat. I do think Combat. I do think both are really fine. I would probably put both in B tier, but if it was up to me, if I could choose, I would obviously choose sub over. And I would try to avoid Assassination Rogue over Combat. No, I don't remember the icons actually. I think this is Assassin, this is Combat. They're using this tier list is using the old icons. But yeah, so let's say this is Combat. This is sorry, this is Combat. This is Outlaw, I should say. This is Assassination. I think this is Assassination if I recall correctly. And Combat. I don't know why Combat has this sword dagger looking stabby thing, because Combat rogues were different. I'm mixing them up. Anyways, you get what I mean. Kind of scuffy tier list already. There is a longer and more detailed version to this that I will be talking about. That will also be linked in the video in the description. And yeah, so let's see. So we're going to talk about Havoc. Now, for me, Havoc, I'm a big fan of Illidan. I think if it was me in Legion, obviously this would be my S tier class because that's what I main in Legion. I did main a few other classes. I think Mage, Feral, Druid as well. But for me right now, Demon Hunter is just not looking that good. It's not looking hot. I think we do need 1 or 2 more abilities just built in our kits. I feel like we're really using things from outside of other sources to make Demon Hunter look and play well. But in my own personal opinion, I think no, Demon Hunter as a whole is great. Vengeance is nice and Havoc is nice. The playstyle is nice. It is flashy. It's cool. But and this is not a numbers thing. This is just my own personal aesthetic. Demon Hunter kind of fell off really hard. There's no really Warglaves anymore. If you do like them, I think you should still. I think you can definitely have fun. This is definitely it's kind of like a Fury Warrior in a sense where you could just you could sit and have fun with it, but also not be too worried about it as a whole. Now, and this is in terms of how do I put this? You can play it, have fun, kind of no-brain it, and then still be decent. Obviously, numbers change. Your Demon Hunter probably could fly up or down in numbers very easily because of how the class is built. But personally, I was hoping that they would bring more of the momentum kind of playstyle, or give it something. It has everything you want in a melee DPS, but it's just I think missing out on damage. But for me, it's just the kits. I think they always push this kind of really basic kits, which is fun for some people and I guess boring for others. Now, that's up to you. Obviously this could be S tier for you or not. If you really like Illidan and Demon Hunters, you really if you like them more than me, then I think you would probably just pick this class either way if you're a fan of him. Now, shout out to all the Illidan fanboys out there. I'm disappointing you, but it's going in the B tier for me personally. And then we're going to talk about the Hunter specs. Now this is BM. BM for me, if I could choose, I would never play it again. I do think BM is really boring. If they change the kit would be much better if it had a little bit more interaction. But so far the kit seems very lackluster for me. Survival, not really interested in it, but I do think if they did change how it played a little bit, the kit seems very complex, like Feral Druid complex. But I haven't put enough time or interest into it, and I think most players don't actually think survival is a viable spec or fun spec in general. So there's no A tier classes, and I think my first A tier probably would be in Marksman. I think Marksman as a whole, Marksman is a very fun class. I think Marksman is, it's the kind of DPS where it's not you can't move a lot like you can with Beast Mastery, and this is someone who's played Hunter as a main in vanilla, and I also played it in TBC and in Wrath, and I thought like BM was so cool for me, but it was for me always a PvP spec, and Bestial Wrath, Beast Within. Like I remember having the talents, also mix and matching with if you could at level 70 I think or 80 you could choose talents from aim shots in Marksman. So you can go to the aim shot talent and marksmanship, but you could also fill out all of BM talent row. So you could basically have Beast Within, Bestial Wrath, and Intimidation, which was like the last tier talents for BM hunters, and then you can go into like Marksman and get aim shot. So I thought that was really cool, getting like a buff, getting a stun, you like you do increased damage, and then your pet is just crazy on the thing, and you just intimidate, stun them, and then you pull an aim shot. Now that BM hunter died a long while ago. So you know he's obviously in the bottom of the tier. I do get some like Vietnam flashbacks when it comes to hunters. And then let's talk about Fury Warrior. So that was enough about the hunters. Fury Warrior, for me, always fun to play. I've played it for many expansions. Always like really bad at some point in the expansion, like early in the expansion, and then it's just like fly up in S tier in terms of damage. Arms a little bit more so, I guess. We can talk about arms next. Let's put Feral maybe like Feral next to Ret maybe, and let's put Monkey Boy here as well. Let's go. So and then Mage we could put here, I guess. So in terms of arms and Fury, for me arms just feels really lackluster, really boring spec, but that being said, they did rework Warrior as a whole. It does feel more better, and it does feel like, you know, the executioner kind of big boy, big sword smashing down as soon as the execution phase starts, or if there's a fight with multiple execution phases. Most Fury Warriors might consider playing arms just for that one fight, like I think we had in what was it? I was like Akamon, I don't know why, but I ended up switching to arms just because it was performing a little bit better for me. So for me it was really great, but arms does fall off into the kind of like slightly boring category, but not too bad, I guess. Not bad like BM Hunter. Sadly, I do apologize for all. I know there's probably a lot of BM Hunter mains, and you guys are probably thinking, oh, why BM Hunter? Like, trust me, I love the class, I love the spec, but I don't know. Frost. Now, I love Obliteration spec Frost. I've never played Breath of Centrigo, so I think the playstyle is kind of cool managing that. I do think it might even be more fun and cool than the other three specs here, so I'm putting it in this tier. But as a whole, I don't think I'm interested in Death Knight as a whole. Unholy, I haven't played it a lot. I'm gonna put in the C tier just because I haven't touched it that much. If I could choose between them, I would love to play Frost. But I think Unholy, because I've never really played it, and I've played Wrath, and I've played when I played in Wrath when DK was really good, and I did play when DK was doing, like when DK Frost was a tank and DK Blood was the DPS, like in Nax and stuff. I remember playing that. I didn't actually raid Nax myself, but I remember like I was actually PvPing, and I was like leveling and twinking like my 70 characters because I left them at TBC with TBC gear on, and I was doing Sunwell and stuff. Eventually, in the middle of like Wrath of the Lich King, I was able to do Sunwell finally, so I felt like accomplished. Yeah, I never really picked up these classes in a while. I think I haven't really touched Frost and Blood DK and DK as a whole in general. I usually actually lean towards Blood, so we'll talk about Blood a bit later. But DK, from these two, I haven't really touched them at all since Wrath of the Lich King / Kata, and I ended up playing Blood DK as let's say like a secondary tank if we needed. Because I think Blood is really fine, but we'll talk about Blood later. Fire Mage, always crazy. I like the playstyle. It kind of feels like Monk in a sense, where you're getting like procs of like Pyroblast and the crits. So you get like you open up like your opener would be like not like your real opener, just like a generic rotation. Could be like, you know, you cast like Fireball, Fire Blast. You get the crits. You insta Pyro, Fire Blast again. Insta pyro, you know, so you're always like trying to like squeeze in those pyros. So you're like casting, hard casting, insta cast, maybe like casting on the move. You know, the whole fire kind of feels good, and the casting on the move feels really good. So I think fire, if I had to choose a cloth caster, I think I'd actually put above all of these specs here personally. But because I'm not maining it, it's still been the B tier. I would put it behind Marksman, but it's because Frost Mage, in my opinion, kind of beats both of them, and I'm going to compete it. Now, if Fire gets better, or if Fire's numbers are better, like this won't affect my enjoyment of Fire. I think Fire is great, even if you don't like Fire's numbers right now. Play Frost, wait till Fire gets OP, like it always does. Jump into Fire. No, someone in the comment section is going to be like, yo, like Fire was never Fire was never good. So let's go to the next class. So we have, sorry, the next spec. We have Arcane. Arcane seems really interesting right now for me, but it's actually going in the C tier because just of my own personal interest. I don't think it's in the highest of the C tier though. So obviously, if you're leaning more towards the let's say the right for you guys, the left for me, the left of the list. This would obviously be like the best of the rank, right? Sub each row. Obviously, sub is like by itself, so it's obviously the best in S tier. But yeah, Arcane Mage, for me, just seems like it's a crazy kind of like it. You know, like you have this playstyle, right, where you're burning mana, and then when your mana is depleted, you have to like evocation to get it back. Now, I think for me, the difference between Frost, Fire, and Arcane is Frost is like hasty. Frost is like, bam, I'm hitting and I'm sending out these Ice Lances, and I get to move on. I'm doing Ice Lances and Flurry Ice Lance combo. A lot of people don't actually know how to play Frost Mage, but Frost Mage is very interesting and probably my favorite caster, or at least according to this tier list, right, so far. I do believe that Frost Mage is my favorite spec of Mage. Usually I always thought it was a DPS spec because Fire, like, I don't know what time it was, but I think in like TBC and in Wrath of Lich King, I don't recall Frost being that good in PvE. I always remember Fire being at the top of the meters, and then Arcane, and then Frost being in last place. I don't know what happened. It went from like vanilla being Frost, the best DPS spec, to then Fire being the best DPS spec. So I've always never mained Mage because of Frost being worse. Now that Frost is better and Frost is really good, and I actually mained it in Legion, I got the Mage Tower Artifact and stuff. For me, Frost just feels a little bit more. But Arcane, we touched on Fire, so Arcane again, just quickly. Frost has a channel-y kind of like bursty, critty kind of playstyle. Fire is more like, you know, you're trying to get a Pyroblast box and just like insta cast, and you can cast and move like even better than the other two Mage specs in my opinion. And then you just have this like, you have this super fun, like if you like watching procs and you like looking for procs, that procky playstyle, this is the class you would play. Like this is the Mage spec you'd play. And then you have Arcane, which feels like, it's like, I would call it like the tunnel vision Mage. It's like the Mage where you're just like, you're blowing shit, you're just shooting everything you have, and then you like evocate, and then you're like trying to manage your mana until you can know that you can evocate soon. And then you're just going hammer, and then you send on those arcane missiles, and like the missiles just feel so good. Like at least for me, like the missiles feel so good. The kit is also really nice with the new rune on top below you that you can spawn. And the kit just built in has like a Mage as a whole just has built in let's see, like more utility as a whole in general right now than it did even before in BFA. Now I think if you're interested in Mage, definitely pick it. It's the one of the classes that has 3 decent DPS specs, and they kind of change. Like they changed very drastically. I guess Hunter as well has that, and Sub Rogue as well, but all 3 of these specs usually are fine. Like they always feel kind of good to play, at least in my opinion. So if you like any of them, you know, obviously whatever you want to put them in whichever order. But for me, Frost Mage is just a league above the other 2. Fire is a league above Arcane. Arcane is not that bad, but yeah, if I had to choose between Arcane and Fire, I would obviously choose Arcane. Sorry, Fire. Windwalker. So I was talking about the S tier. Windwalker for me is an S tier, even if the scaling isn't that good. I do believe Windwalker has this very unique playstyle. Now, obviously, I think there should be more monks in general. I think monk is, it's sad that it's like the least played class in the game. I think even Demon Hunter beats it now. Now the monk has this really crazy situation where it kind of like is like bottom of the barrel when it comes to PvE, like in terms of rating, but it's really good at Mythic Plus and really good at PvP. So if you're looking to do some open world, some PvP, some Mythic Plus, and if your raid team really just wants a Windwalker for that 5% buff, I think Windwalker is a really viable class, and I think it actually is more fun than Sub Rogue at the moment, at least for me. I haven't raided with it, I haven't played it too much. I did play it, and I got the Legendary Cloak at Mr. Pandaria. It was like a really well played alt for me. I thought it was really enjoyable to play it, and I still think till this day there's nothing wrong with Windwalker. And it has this really nice kit. Now I know it's gonna seem crazy, but I'm putting the Feral in the S tier for me personally, and I think I'm putting it above these 2 other leather boys. So for me, Feral just feels like a really, great class as a whole, and I think this would actually probably be the class that I lean towards the most. Now maybe I should put this at the end of the tier, but for me, Feral, I just have a long history with Feral. I did the Mage Tower, I did the Shadowlands, I did the, sorry, Mr. Pandaria challenge mode. I never actually got the Legendary Cloak. I never bothered with it because I ended up playing Feral after like I geared up my Warrior and played Warrior that expansion and Monk, and then Feral was like in like 3rd place for me. Sadly, the numbers for Feral has always been really terrible. In PvP, it's really good. It's performing really well. If you do PvP like I do as a secondary kind of thing, you know, like open world, and then raiding and open world is like the majority of things I do. But I like being able to play a good 1v1 class, and I think Feral Druid is really good in 1v1 and then just like in arena. In RBGs and rated battlegrounds, I do believe switching to balance might be better, but that's not too hard. You just change your trinkets. Maybe the enchantments, you might need a new weapon or something, but for the most part, you could just change trinkets and weapon and you should be fine. Like roughly, but you know, you'll obviously need to gear up and get better items, like in terms of PvP. I also think Convoke the Spirits, since I'm very interested in this class, I think Convoke the Spirits, like being able to do Starfall, for me as a Feral, will feel really funny. I think like the whole like Arcane kind of balance. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to pick Feral Druid as a main, because there's 2 other classes that are very like close. The second place class for me is Paladin. I think it's more fun. I do like what we've gotten with the Rets. No, this is Retribution, right? I'll talk about Holy and the other 2 specs, but I do enjoy off specs of Rets more than I do of Feral, and Feral has a lot more off specs. I do think the tank on Feral, like Guardian compared to Paladin, is like a bit different, but we'll talk about that in the tank and the DPS videos. Sorry, the tank and the healer video. So that will be like maybe a separate video, or just like past a certain points. And I do apologize if this is like really like rushed out. I'm talking too fast. I'm kind of nervous. I do apologize, but I hope you guys understand that this is like, I'm trying to rush through this, but I'm also trying to give you as much information in as short time as possible. Let's see. So we got the Feral. Another few things, I've been looking more into Feral than other classes as a whole, but I do find that Rets has the place that I really like of like a hybrid class where I can, and I also like Ret's like viability, also with the damage reduction we're getting from Devotion Aura, and Retribution Aura as well. I would love use that. Watching my allies die in battle, I'll be like, oh, I gotta avenge you. In actuality, I'm like, yes, guildies, die so I can get more DPS. Like that's for me what Red is. But I do want to be able to like lay on hands people in raids, you know, put bops, put immunities. So Red seems like a really viable choice overall, and I think a really good choice in Shadowlands, considering that, you know, you have like Wake of Ashes that could stun ghosts and demons and undead, and you feel like the anti you know, Scourge, you know, you feel like the anti-dead, you know, you're like the power of Christ compels you kind of class. And sadly, Holy Pala is not doing so good, but we'll touch on that a bit later. Let's get into Ellie. So Ellie, I think, is a great caster. I wish there were more elemental shamans. I do think I like Ellie. I haven't touched Shaman in a while, so I'll put Enhancement as well. I'll put Enhancement actually above Ellie for me personally, but if I could raid, I've never seen an Enhancement really in a raid often. Back in like Wrath and Vanilla, Vanilla, they were like they had that 2-handed Wind Fury crits, kind of like big deeps, you know, with the Wind Fury crits. We've all seen the videos, and sadly that's not viable. If they ever made that again, that'd be really fun to play with. You know, and Shaman does use 2-handed maces. They can use it, and I don't see why they shouldn't. Now I do prefer the dual wield, like having 2 weapon enhancements, but I do wish that they made it so that it was viable, like you could choose it in a talent somehow. That being said, Shaman does do good damage in PvE. Shami is just a great class overall, and I think if I had to if I had to pick a class that I always wanted to play but never picked, like just like how I find Feral Druid also doing little damage in PvE, like in terms of rating, Shaman is also one of those classes. I just wish they gave it something else. Like, just give it something else. Like, Ret has something now. You know, Windwalker has something. Even Havoc has something, and Fury. But Ret doesn't really have something. And DKs have their combat res. I guess they could also fall into the category of, like, of these classes here. I do wish they also did something with Feral. Maybe give it, like, a 5% crits damage or crit buff. to all people in party and raid members, like leader of the pack. We used to have that in TBC. Just touching on that. But I wish Shaman also gave something like one of the melees give 5% more damage to melee, one of the melees give 5% damage to range. So you always want a demon hunter. Let's say warriors give their stamina and their buffs and their battle shouts. And then maybe Feral could have like crits percent. Shaman could have like 1% crit damage. And then Ellie can bring like the same thing as enhancement. Let's see. As in terms of Ellie, I think Ellie has this really hidden kind of like, you don't see many of them, and they're cool. They're really cool. Like playing this class with sound on, playing this class shooting chain lightning. You know, the playstyle they always had. It is there, and it's in a weird position always. But I think if you're okay with not being the top DPS, but having fun as a class and having a super broad toolkit, and I think in M+ it could be fun as well. But aside, I'm gonna have to put in the beats here for now, and as well as enhancement. If I had to compare them, it's really hard to compare, but I do think I like enhancement more overall, because of how, you know, it has Doom Hammer and these kind of things. But no, that is not really a problem. I guess I could just use Doom Hammer as Ellie Shaman and use Fist of Radan in my, like, you know, or whatever. Right. Alright, so we're coming to the Boomkin. Now, Boomkin, I personally don't mind it, but it's actually going... Let's see, I would put it here, actually. No, I put it above 5 mage, just because I do like Feral so much. And I have to consider Feral and my off-spec. Now, if you're planning to main Boomkin, you have to consider Feral as an off-spec, and you have to consider Resto Druid and all these kind of things, and yada yada yada. And this is for each class, you know, like Resto Shaman being, I think, one of the top healers right now. No, obviously, spoilers, we're going to talk about that a bit later, but it has altered my tier list, but there's like a previous tier list that were my thought processes a few weeks ago, and this is just the final day kind of tier list. And then we're going to talk about Affliction. Oh, wait, maybe we should talk about Boomkin more? Should we talk about Affliction? Let's talk about Affliction. Let's put Affliction where I think it should be. Now, I'm going to put it there for now, but I'll tell you guys why. So, with Boomkin, the playstyle is not very, like, liked by many people. Many people don't think the playstyle of Boomkin is really fun. Now, personally, if it were up to me, I do think that... Moonkin is, it's not bad. I do like the Starfall kind of like, oh, I'm setting out everything. I'm literally firing everything, you know. I do like the effects. I do like Druid. I do like the class, the static, and I do like having like the challenge mode here and like, you know, seeing those effects. Boomkin sadly just falls off hard in PvP. In open world, it's really crazy, but it's like a caster, and it's like always it's always been like a secondary kind of like a mage, you know, and never really as good. Do I think Moonkin it will be terrible? I think it will always be that's in the middle of the pack. There are some fights where it's going to excel, and you have that kind of play style. But right now, in World of Warcraft, I believe that numbers are everything. Numbers are king, and what is meta will always kind of stay meta unless it gets nerfed. Now, if I think that you should worry about that 1% damage difference, 1% no, but so far, like, some of these classes are just doing way too bad for me to even, like, say that you should probably pick them or not. Like, it would influence you like a regular person, like myself. If I'm doing a pug with some randoms in Mythic Plus, they might not pick me if I'm playing a Feral Druid, but they might pick me if I'm playing a Ret, and Ret might not be the top, but it has more in its toolkits, you know, in terms of assistance and overall just a buff. And some of these classes suffer from this. Okay, so let's talk about Affliction. So Affliction, in my opinion, is in S tier for damage, but in terms of playstyle, I'm putting it in the C tier, and I'm thinking I'm putting it right. Let's say I'll put it in the highest part of the C tier. On my other tier list, it's a bit different. I'm gonna put this actually like this. I think this is probably more accurate. Affliction, and I'm gonna talk about Destro and Demo. So Demo is going in there, and Destro is going here. And you're probably wondering, like, yo, like, why is Demo in the top? For me personally, playstyle wise, Demo is the most interesting, and I really have a soft spot for Destro. I think actually Destro could be an A tier, but if you're considering playing Warlock, you have to consider that Affliction is the main spec that you probably will be playing in terms of PvP and in terms of PvE, and even in terms of questing. So the only time that you really would play any of the other two specs is is Destro, and that's for Mythic Plus. Now, I do think Destro's new kind of like Rain of Fire playstyle Infernal kit is really great. I think a lot of people want to play more Warlock specs, but the damage difference in rating is just so different, and the ramp up for Demo, I mean, like, if you love any of these specs, right, and any spec in general, not just the Warlocks, you know, obviously pick them. But for me, I just wish they did a little bit more to make demo just like, it's like a dot spec, but without the dots. Your dots are demons, and they don't stick on targets. They die and they get feared and they get stunned and they get killed and they get killed and die. Yeah, they get both. They get killed again, I guess. And Destro, like, I do like the theme of them three. Like, so we have the Affliction summoning the eye, the demon with the eye. We have the Destro Warlock summoning Infernals. And I'm gonna make a class rework on demo, just like another rework, but like a little like how to make demo better and how I would make demo more fun. And I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, but maybe I'll make a whole, or maybe like a 5-6 minute video on it. But personally, what I would do shortly, if I were to tell you guys, is I would make demo feel like more demons. You know, I would give it more demons. Let the wrap up be. If it's ramping up and it's getting crazier, let it be like that, fine. But let's say for starters, maybe give demo baseline Doomguard. When you summon a demon, you always summon a Doomguard or Wrathguard or whatever you want to call it, the Doomguard or Wrathguard. I don't know which one, the glyph, you know. Let it summon. So if you summon a Wrathguard, you'll have 2 Wrathguards. If you summon an Imp, you'll have an Imp and a Wrathguard, and you'll always have that. And I think it was nice that they gave it the interrupt with the Wrathguard. That was like one big problem with Mythic Plus. But I do think that just giving them 2 Wrathguards would be really crazy, like just like how BM has 2 pets. And you're probably thinking like, wow, demo is up here and BM is down there. Like, demo is just so different to any other class. It is a caster, but another thing I would also change is Hand of Gul'dan. I think Hand of Gul'dan, you should be able to use as many combo points or as many points as you want. And we should summon baseline with 3, should summon 5. And then if you use 4, it should summon just 6. And I know this sounds crazy, but you can obviously nerf the imps or nerf it. But having more imps in general would give you more of those instant casts. And I do believe of the 3 specs, demo used to be the PvP spec. Like, demo used to be the spec that people picked up because of the guard and the the Doomguard or the Wrathguard back in TBC, and then meta was also really good because you could get more armor. So demo was actually very tanky. Like, all Warlock specs were tanky, but demo was especially tanky. I guess Destro was like the least tanky. And yeah, I think with a few touches with Destro or Destruction Warlock, in raiding it's just not that. It's just that you could perform well with it, and there is a few niche patches where it just shines really well, and it is fun to play. Chaos bolting, like sending out 3 Chaos bolts, is really nice. That whole playstyle, that shardy playstyle, is really nice. I love the crystals, I love the green fire, I love the challenge mode sets, I love all the Warlock gear. Like, Warlock gear has always looked good, and I would love to put all 3 in top, but the class suffers from one spec just being way too dominant, and that's Affliction. And that's why I'm putting it in C tier, because I just don't find it interesting. Even with the rework, I find it just less interesting, or I guess more interesting. It would have been in D tier, but I think C tier. And this is from someone who's playing the game for like a few years, but I've always been playing it like on and off, and then coming back to the game now after 2-year break. Like, I basically quit in BFA like within the first 3 months. So this is me coming back to the game. So yeah, hopefully I can enjoy Shadowlands, and hopefully you guys are with me on that one. Right, last of the last, the Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest rework, in my opinion. And I'll put it in here. I'll put it here first. Sorry. In my opinion, Shadow Priest rework is a successful rework. It's a slight rework. It's not too in detail. In my opinion, I preferred BFA's, you know, building up the insanity, then blowing it on those, blowing it on void form. Basically, your insanity equals void form. I really like that playstyle. I think it's maybe similar to Beta Syndergrosa playstyle. I'm not too sure because you have to like keep it up, but it's kind of like, and the whole like Surrender to Madness as well. If you take that talent and you'd use it in certain like boss fights, let's say in Mythic Plus, that could be really fun. I think Shadow Priest would be a really fun caster, and I'm definitely putting it in the top of the casters. It's just, let's see if it makes the final cut of S tier. Now, I know plenty of people are going to be playing Shadow Priest. I know plenty of people like the Devouring Plague, and I personally like it as well. I don't really like it more than Frost Mage in reality, but with the rework and with Devouring Plague, I have to put the Devouring Plague. Now, I prefer old Devouring Plague. I preferred using the whole like void form as an explosion, and I don't like it how it is now. I do believe that Devouring Plague should just be a dot, and then it will cost insanity. But you would use the void form to turn into void form, right? So it would be less priority, and maybe that would be like all over the place. That's how I would put it. But it can cost insanity, just not cost that much. and maybe nerf the numbers on it if it's doing too good or if it's too powerful, or maybe just leave it just a one target or something. Just like you have to keep it up, but it's like a short ability, it's like an extra ability. You have to manage it, and you have to like choose within whether if you want to go into void form faster or if you want to stay and just doing this dot. Maybe we can have, I don't want to give it like a talent option like having Devour Plague. I think it's nice to have it baseline, but I'm gonna actually put it high up in the S tier. Now I'm really considering to main this in Shadowlands, and I think I will actually put it right here. Vampiric Touch is really good. Dispersion is really good for like a raid utility, and the biggest thing is it like the other two specs for it is a DPS spec. So if it falls off, it's gonna fall off hard. I do believe that many people are gonna be playing Shadow Priest, and they might play it, enjoy it, and then realize like if Blizzard realize it's too strong, they will nerf it, and you don't have anything to fall back on. So this is really like a dangerous spec to play. Just like actually not even just like Feral, because Feral still has Boomkin. You know, it'll be just like Monk, I guess, or Ret, where, you know, it falls into this category, like these three right here. But they're also really fun, and I do feel bad that they suffer from hybrid tax. But yeah. And let's see. So this is getting long. So this would be the end, I guess, of the DPS specs. I haven't missed anything, have I? Like, these are all healers. These are all tanks. Yeah, I think this is the end for this list. Now I'm gonna make a tank tier list, and it's gonna be the same. I'm just gonna place them on the side of this. So hello everyone, welcome to the tank part of the tier list. If I edit this and put it into 2 videos, I'm not too sure, because this tier list is really long. So we're gonna start off with Guardian Druid, right? So obviously I'm considering Feral, and this is if I were to main a tank, right? I do think Guardian is a bit lackluster for most people, but for me, I think it's still fine. I think it is an enjoyable spec. I just wish it had a little bit more. But I'm willing to main it, even though it doesn't have everything. What else can I say? It's very basic playstyle. I wish... you know, you have that beefy kind of tanky, like you're just like, I think you have like one of the most healths or most armors of any class. I think Blood DK being the one with the most health, if I'm correct, if I'm just like going off the top of my head, usually. But Druid as a whole is really cool. Now I like the fact that you can stealth and stuff, and that's what brings Druid up for me. You have that all that extra stuff that you can do, not just tanking. In terms of Warrior, I do believe Warrior is, I think, my most played off spec. It's going to be in B tier though, because I'm not really interested in playing Warrior at the moment. I do believe if you like Warrior, you know, just play it. It's a good class. It has a little bit of like management, and it's just spammy kind of class. Now, in terms of Paladin, I would love to put Paladin obviously up here. It is an S tier tank in terms of like what it can do, and it has a really nice kit. But I'm actually putting it in the C tier because it is a bit spammy. I do believe it could go up maybe to B tier just because the new legendaries and the new the one that gives the avenging shield, where you can constantly throw like 5 of them out. It's really crazy. I think the class is really crazy, but I do believe it's kind of like also kind of boring as well, in terms of like a class as a whole. Now I know plenty of Paladins are gonna be upset with me when they see this list, but yeah. Brewmaster I'm putting in an S tier because I just played it, and I don't have a max level Brewmaster, but I do believe that we should have more monks. I do believe the Stagger is really interesting. I do believe the class as a whole is a very interesting class. I love how they also keep the artifact weapon on their shoulders. Now I'm going back and talking about Legion stuff all the time in the tier list, but I do keep these kind of like cosmetics and stuff in mind. In terms of like Shadowlands, let's say powers that we will be getting, like Covenant powers or whatever. I'm not too sure on the tanks on what they get. I did obviously do research on DPS since I'm planning to play DPS, and we already have 2 tanks. But yeah, Brewmaster seems like a really great spec. If I were maining Windwalker Monk, I would love to play Brewmaster as a spec for like Mythic Plus. But Windwalker is really good spec for Mythic Plus as well. So I would love to have a Brewmaster in my raids. I think any guild would love to have a Brewmaster. And yeah, let's talk about Blood. I think Blood falls just right behind Brewmaster. They're really like hit and miss. If you were really good at tanking, you really wanted to play as a tank in Shadowlands, Blood DK is the class to pick, in my opinion. Like, if you really want an in-depth tank spec and you have another another tank in your raid that is not a Blood DK, pick Blood DK. Like if you really find it enjoyable aesthetically, and the Shadowlands feeling, it's really great. The whole class of it as itself is just really great. I think in my previous tier list, I think Blood was maybe higher, but I think I've definitely put Brewmaster in top place now for me, personally, just personally for me, right? Vengeance, I would also put it up here, but for me it sadly fell off. Is it cooler than Druid? I would say it's on par with Druid. These are almost interchangeable for me. I think that there is a pro and con with both of them, where they both have really good mobility, and Vengeance can really keep itself, sustained and stuff. And so can Garden, really. I mean, most tanks can, right? But I think I'm gonna put it I'll put it here because I do enjoy it, and I think it's my favorite Demon Hunter spec. I think I even like it more than Havoc now. That being said, would we see a lot of Vengeance? Hopefully we would, but I think for Mythic Plus it'd be a better tank, personally, just on how the kit works. Now let's talk about so we have Resto Shaman, we have Resto Druid. We'll talk about all these, right? So Resto Druid, great spec. I think you can never go wrong if you pick a Resto Druid. I think it's going to go in the A tier for me. So obviously don't compare it to these classes here. This is just a healer section of the video. And yeah, so I guess healer section starts now. Resto Druid. Let's see. What can I say about this? Probably the best Mythic Plus tank ever made. Sorry, healer ever made. Probably one of the best PvP healers as well. And in raids, I guess you're really niche. You don't really need multiple Resto Druids, but you do have this like really nice hot playstyle, which I think, if you know that there's going to be a lot of damage, you could always constantly, like, I do believe you get a lot of overhealing as a Resto Druid, but having some hots and placing hots and knowing that the target is going to take a lot of damage, having those hots and just always being there, you don't have, like, I feel like you don't have much of a pressure, but you also have combat res, you also have cat form, you also have, like, you can also damage. So I think Resto Druid, and I know that they nerfed the damage, because I obviously been, like, a little bit updated before Shadowlands is coming out, right? So they did get damage nerfed. I don't think that should deter you from playing the class at all. I think Resto Druids are the one most viable Druid spec, and I really feel like they're making all the Druid specs kind of really suffer from hybrid tax, which I feel like that's fine. But I don't know where to go with I guess with this as a whole. Since I am interested in Druid and I have to consider Resto as a spec, as an off spec, they're obviously getting influenced by this. And for the pre-specs, we have Disc. I think Disc is in the terms of blood, in terms of what I think is a class that someone should play when they are at the highest points of the game. Now, you can obviously pick up Disc day one and learn it and become a Disc god. Discipline piece, that is. Discipline is such an amazing class, but the playstyle is not for everyone, and I don't think many people who play healers who like healing played. I think it's more of like if your mentality is like your brain has expanded, you've just gotten galaxy brain IQ, and then you're just you're able to just realize how Disc plays and you can learn it. And I do appreciate every Disc player. I played Disc myself, but I played it in Wrath of Lich King, where it was just completely busted. I do believe Wrath of Lich King Discipline was really busted. I went into Kata playing Disc and it was really hard, and that's when I played Priest as well. I don't play a lot of Priest. I think it's my least played class next to Monk, but yeah, and Shaman as well. Disc always great, and Holy I think would put it in the A tier, and I think I would put it, if I had to play Holy or Resto Druid. Now I'm obviously comparing all these classes to the ones right next to it, right? Obviously not tanks with DPS, but I would put Holy right here, and it's just because influence is more on Feral for me, but Disc is right next to it because of Shadow Priest. And I think I would play Holy over Disc personally, because I do like that hard-casty kind of like being everything. Like Holy Priest, you're never gonna be wrong. You're never gonna be bad at really anything, but you're never gonna be a niche healer as well. So you have that kind of like suffering of being a double healer spec right there, and you might get outshined by Discipline at some points in certain raids and certain encounters, and you might be forced to play Discipline at some points in certain encounters. If you don't like healing, obviously avoid Priests, but if you do like healing, you'll have two options. So Priests are really strong. I might even put in the S, just like Priest as a whole, but from now I'm putting them in two different categories, and I'm actually putting it behind Resto Druid. Holy Paladin, for me, I think it's a great class. Sadly it's not good in Shadowlands. Holy Pally, I don't really like the whole like melee DPS, kind of like you're doing melee, and I don't like the mastery anymore. I prefer the all Holy Paladin mastery. I do like the melee and doing that and using Crusader Strike to build holy power. I just preferred hard casting and tank healing personally. Like if I played and I think of Holy Paladin, I know that it can heal 2 people or 3 people really well. Especially 2 people, like 2 targets, like with the different beacons. Like you can have the 2 different beacons in the Talon row if it's viable. I'm not gonna go too deep into detail of each spec, but I do believe that this is what for me at least I would probably even put it above disc for me personally. In terms of numbers, obviously it doesn't look good, but I don't think you should really go off of numbers. Your guild probably wants a Holy Paladin anyways. If they tell you no, don't play Holy, it's trash. You know, just if there is none, just be like, look, we don't have any. Something can happen. Let me be the trash tank healer, right? No problem. Holy Paladins, don't worry, okay? I'm pretty sure your class would get love. Yes, they've butchered your class. Yes, there's powers and stuff, but we don't know what's going on in Shadowlands. In terms of Monk, I would love to put the Monk here, but I'm actually going to put it... I'm not too sure if fist weaving is still a thing, but Monk for me seems really like... It's interesting, but it's like probably a really weak healer in terms of all other healers. If I had to main healer in Shadowlands, I'd probably put Monk in this section right here. And I do believe there's a lot of like holy paladins and priests and stuff. And sadly, it's I think going to be the lowest rank healer, because obviously Shaman is going to be above it, right? Now, is it right next to it? Would it be in its own tier? No, I think I put it right here, and I actually put it above Holy. And I think if I had to choose between Shaman healer and Druid healer, I think I would actually choose it above. And this is maybe getting influence of numbers, but I do believe Shaman has a lot of... It has an interrupt. It's not the best in PvP anymore. It used to be a really strong PvP healer. It's never been as good as Discipline, but it's always been a really strong PvP healer. But I think for raiding, and I guess most of you guys are going to raid, right? I do think that Resto Shaman... sorry if I didn't brush on Monk a lot, but Monk is a very basic healer, and you could just constantly channel, and it is a fun straight up healer playstyle. But Shaman's passive, I am in tune with Shaman's passive in terms of all the healers. If I recall, like the mastery of the class is to heal great, like heals are more powerful the lower the target's health is, and I love healing people when they're really low. For me, that's really great. It doesn't fit it isn't S tier for me personally because of Holy and Disc Priest, like Holy Paladin and Disc Priest, sorry, but it does beat the other healers by I think almost by a long shot. Maybe not a long shot in terms of like here, because I do think Resto Druid is a good healer, but I don't think I'd play it myself, right? I think Resto Shaman, right? So Resto Shaman, what can I say? Healing Rain, that feeling, the whole sound effects of everything that you're playing, and this is obviously the last class. Resto Shaman is just going to be... yeah, I'll put it in A tier. I'll put it in the highest of the A tier. It could borderline be S tier because it is good, and I do believe plenty of people are going to play it, and it's going to be flavor of the month for healers in terms of overall healing and raids. I think most guilds are going to be running with 3 Shamans, and I do believe Shaman is like a very niche class, so I'm happy that Shaman has its place. I do like this kind of like for the Horde kind of like feeling as well that Shamans usually bring in their gear and stuff. They look good as Zandalari, they look good as Tauren, they look good as Orcs, they look good as regular Trolls. And then you have like Volpera and stuff as well. That, you know, they're okay, but also the challenge mode gear, if you have it, you know, and for me that's a consideration why I should play it. Resto, sadly I'm not maining healer, but I do believe Resto is a great spec. Chain heal is really great. Earth Shield, I think, is baseline again, so that's really good. I don't know why they removed that. I felt like that was like staple Shaman stuff. I thought, for me back in the day, the thing with Shaman Healer is I thought it was more fun to just press a button, summon 4 totems, and then like use certain totems for different cooldowns. I do believe that was more fun than choosing each totem as a unique spell. That being said, like they wanted to go away from that because they thought, you know, we just drop a totem and then you just forget about it. I do believe Shaman really like bring something new, you know. Shaman is something that's like, it's chain mail. It doesn't compete with other healers really, obviously trinkets and stuff, you know, but it also has a shield, and then now Holy Paladins are kind of like, you know, scrapped. I think you can also use a staff as a I mean, I know you can use a staff, but I don't know if it's often that you get a staff during a raid. But yeah, I think Shamans could be something to keep an eye on. Unless you like PvP, then they might be like in, I don't know, like in a C tier or D tier maybe. Not a C tier, so like a B tier or C tier. Mythic Plus as well, I do believe they're in like a C tier, B tier kind of situation. Don't quote me on that since we haven't played Shadowlands and I haven't played the beta. Anyways, guys, yeah, I think that's my tier list for you guys. I'm not gonna keep this video longer than it needs to be. It's already like 48 minutes or something. Yeah, hopefully I do see you guys in Shadowlands. If you want to come by and stop by today, or if you ever like see this video and you're just like thinking, oh, I want to stop by and check this guy out. Please come and support me via just coming and obviously just chatting with me, not support me in terms of money, but just come and chat with me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/rareentry with 3s. And yeah, if you want to talk about some classes, some class guides, if you want to check my other videos out, all that stuff will be in the channel and links everywhere. I'll be putting timestamps, obviously. I guess I should probably mention this at the beginning of the video. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's it for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day at Shadowlands, and obviously a wonderful future in WoW and Shadowlands as well. I hope you guys enjoy the expansion. I hope Shadowlands really hits hard, and I hope Blizzard can really pull this expansion together. This feels kind of like a Wrath of the Lich King and Legion kind of hybrid. We're going to see a lot of lore about Arthas and stuff, and I won't talk about that right now in the video, but yeah, I do appreciate you guys. I love you all. I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Peace!